Well, good evening and welcome to the Decluttering Battle Plan. This is a webinar that's created to help you conquer clutter with a straightforward 5-step plan. Thank you so much for taking time to be here today. We're really glad that you've joined us, and it's our intention to inspire you into action and to provide you with strategic tools that you can apply to make decluttering as simple and easy as possible. Let's get going. There I am on a better hair day. My name is Sharon Parento. I'm a realtor with Keller Williams, and I've created my own brand called the S.M.A.R.T Realty Solution brand. But rest assured, my intention here today is not to sell you on my services as much as sell you on the idea that decluttering your life is going to be worth it. And in many different ways, we can measure those effects for you. So this workshop was designed after knocking on doors in my neighborhood in Richmond Hill and finding that people had the same problems, the same concerns, the same challenges. And most of my clients are downsizers, but this presentation tonight is not just for people who are considering selling their homes or downsizing. It's really a broad-based program for anyone who is finding that after these months of being in COVID shutdown, the walls are just feeling a little tighter and the amount of stuff that's accumulated is feeling daunting. So thank you for being here. It's my pleasure to present to you on a digital format, something that we've been doing for years in person at community centers, rec halls, seniors group, small groups, wherever they will have us, and the response has been very positive. I hope you're going to find today practical and inspirational. That's my goal. We have a long history of giving back to the community through our public education seminars like this, but also through fundraising endeavors. And you're going to find out about one at the very end of today's presentation that you can participate in. And the goal is always win-win. And I think I've got something that you're going to really appreciate, and completely on topic with decluttering. So tonight's order of events is that we're going to start with a welcome and an introduction, then move on to the high cost of clutter and also the benefits of decluttering. So one of those is the stick and the other one is the carrot. And whichever one you respond to, we hope you'll find this helpful and motivational. We're also going to look at some of the things that have stopped you from decluttering up until now. I call those the myths that keep you in clutter. And for every myth, we're allowed to counter it with truth. And that's what we're going to do today. And then we're going to get right into the practical application part of our presentation today, which are the 5 decluttering strategy steps. Now, I come to you from the perspective of a realtor, but having delivered this time and time again to literally hundreds of people, I want you to stay tuned for the very end of it so that we can, first of all, tell you about our special offers. We're going to have a prize giveaway and an opportunity for you to participate through question and answer. Okay, so stick with me. There's going to be a lot coming at you, but rest assured, you are going to get this presentation emailed out to you so that you can review it and make sure that you are absorbing it on your own time frame, okay? So when I deal with downsizing seniors, the number one obstacle I face is the amount of stuff they have to consider. So whether this is because of the emotional upheaval they anticipate that sorting through it is going to create, or just the physical labor involved, it becomes a daunting task. And the number one thing I hear is the word overwhelm, mostly because people just don't know where to start. And so that task becomes something to avoid, it becomes something unpleasant, and they just keep pushing it into the future. And they say, okay, well, someday I'm going to deal with this, and someday I will get to it. But it doesn't happen. And it ends up that The window of opportunity closes as they become older, and eventually they are stuck in a home that no longer suits their best interests or their lifestyle needs. They are overhoused. So that is the end result of this. And whether you are 20 or 70, we all have far too much. So I don't want you to think that the only time to declutter is when you're planning to downsize. Everyone can benefit. And the very fact that you are here today is something to be applauded. So kudos to you for taking the first step in a lighter, brighter, more satisfying environment. Okay? So, backwards we went. So let's just look at our enemy. We're calling clutter our enemy. And boy, this enemy exacts a high cost. Everything from the intangible atmosphere it creates in your home, a sense of being unsettled, not at peace, to even affecting your social life and how you feel perhaps that you have to apologize for your mess, and you feel embarrassed, and then maybe you don't actually even want to invite people to your home. Then we also think of the petty aggravation and annoyance of losing things, all the way up the line to actual hard financial costs that can be measured. So whether it is the kind of environment that is plaguing you, or there's actual costs that you can measure, there is a high price to pay for clutter, and we want to put it into that. So here we have, poor Fred says, I need another book on decluttering. I lost the other two I borrowed. And I'm sure we can all relate. We all have multiples of things because we've lost something and had to go and replace it. And that's certainly one financial cost that we can measure. But I also want you to think from the standpoint of me as a real estate agent, that I see people who all the time are empty nesters, and they are living in a home far bigger than what they need, only to act as a warehouse for their things, or a museum, whichever one you prefer. So if you were to think of the total square footage of your home or the number of rooms and count that up, and then say, how many am I actually using? And how much of the rest of it is for warehousing my stuff? That can be a sobering wake-up call. So we look at utilities and property insurance and maintaining a house that is really more than you need. And that is something that we could actually put a dollar value on. So when I think of the statistics in the Greater Toronto area, that there are 2.2 million empty bedrooms, that really speaks to the ubiquitous nature of us being overhoused. 70% of seniors live in homes bigger than what they need for their day-to-day enjoyment. And I see this all the time. Clients who are living in the kitchen, the family room, and the principal bedroom. And the rest of it is just basically unused. If you could only cash that in and be able to take the extra and live with it and enjoy life, I think that's the real purpose of the real estate that we hold as we get older. So when we look at that, this is pulled from the Toronto Real Estate Board in December of 2021. And you're going to see that whether you live in the 416 or the 905 like I do, there is a drastic difference in the price of real estate by category. So these are the average prices. Where I live in the 905, a detached house is worth over $1.5 million. And a condo apartment is a little bit over $650,000. That's a $900,000 difference. So if you could see your way clear to getting into, say, a 2-bedroom condo versus a 4-bedroom house, all of that equity that you've acquired over the years is something that will actually enhance your lifestyle. And if you're not quite ready for the condo apartment, I love townhouses. Those are such a great kind of interim measure. Okay, so there's the pitch for downsizing. And the only thing I say on that, other than there is a financial cost. So what would be the financial benefit of decluttering? Well, first of all, maybe you will recoup some of the cost of your surplus items through reselling them or bringing them to a consignment shop or offering them up for sale online. And many of the charities that we work with that will come and pick up your surplus will offer you a tax receipt. And so even though you might be paying for the pickup, you see the benefit when you come to file your taxes with that receipt in hand. So there are huge financial benefits to dealing with the clutter. And I'm going to say, just as an aside, it's the number one thing you can do to increase the resale value of your home. Don't worry about granite countertops or putting on an addition or something like that. The most important thing you could do is to declutter your home, and whether it is basic or completely luxurious, it's always going to sell for more. So keep this in mind as a really great financial incentive. I joke with my clients that every bag you take out is worth $100 to the resale value. I'm not sure if that's quite true, but it does make it real and important to do. But even if you don't have any conception of moving at all, just the benefits to your enjoyment of the space. There's some great advertisements from 1-800-GOT-JUNK where they talk about finding a new room in their house. And that's so true. Usable space to do creative projects. Just even your enjoyment of it is so important. So your home has always been intended as a sanctuary, not a storage unit. And I think as COVID has put us into shutdown numerous times, we really feel that. We feel that our homes are a place of safe haven and respite. But if you're looking around and the junk is irritating you or creating a sense of unwellness, then we can address that in some simple, straightforward steps that we are going to get to. There's also a lot of health benefits associated with decluttering, just like there's a lot of studies that link a cluttered environment to everything from weight gain to sleeping problems. This is something that can be reversed by cleaning up the environment and tidying things up. You'll get better quality sleep and even have a decrease in some symptoms associated with allergens. Dust and things like that can really be triggers for people. And once we get the home cleaned up and decluttered and organized, the entire package is so much more appealing. So why don't we declutter then? If you will agree with me that we need to declutter, we all have a sense that either our surplus possessions are a problem now or they will be in the future. Why haven't we addressed it? Well, part of it is, I think, summed up in this very apt quote: clutter is the physical manifestation of unmade decisions fueled by procrastination. Task avoidance is something we all can struggle with. Doesn't matter if it's organizing paperwork for taxes or doing chores or any one of these things. You really can understand that we get decision fatigue by feeling overwhelmed. We see this wall, we don't know how to start. And I think that we also tell ourselves some things, some myths that keep us cluttered. Number one, I hear very frequently is that you have a sentimental attachment. Oh, I can't get rid of that. That's my daughter's macaroni art from kindergarten. Guilty. And I'm not saying that you have to be completely ruthless and strip out all of the sentimental tchotchkes or memorabilia or souvenirs of your travels. I'm just saying allocate a limited amount, designate a spot for those special things. And I know that we have really special things that we really feel like we must keep. And then there's other things that are more questionable. For the more questionable category, I can really suggest that you take a photo of it and maybe have a collection of all your children's macaroni art over the ages and create a little photo book. They're not expensive. It's a great way to condense everything that you wanted to keep into a small book. And there you've got it. You can flip through it. This came home for me when my daughter returned back home from university and helped me to declutter. And I literally had boxes of macaroni art. I have 4 kids, and so 4 times the macaroni art. Now, it was just sitting in boxes. It wasn't like I ever went through it, ever looked at it. And when we went down memory lane, I realized that for me, it sparked really great memories of when the kids were little, and that somehow by getting rid of those pictures and drawings from their childhood, that I was somehow disloyal to that memory. And I realized, no, what I need to figure out is how can I access that same warm, fuzzy feeling without having banker's boxes beneath my crawl space, right? Doesn't make sense. So being somewhat pragmatic about it, backing up a little bit and figuring out a way that you can have the best of both worlds. Keep the memories, but not keep the junk. Now, here's another one all the time. Oh, I'm saving that for my family. Oh, that Auntie Emma's hope chest is going to my daughter. Well, first of all, does your daughter know? That's a really big question to ask. And do they agree? Do they actually even want the stuff that you've set aside for them? Oftentimes the answer, sadly, is no. But that is just one of the things we tell ourselves, that we want to keep those family heirlooms so that we can pass them on. But I'm going to tell you, today's lifestyle with our kids just doesn't afford that. They don't have the space, they don't have the inclination, and typically they are not collectors. So the Royal Daltons that you kept from each of their birth dates, or the teacups that you inherited from your grandma, none of these things are going to fit into their lifestyle. So if they do say, oh, well, we would like this particular item, then I ask you one final question to converse with them is, what is the plan for retrieving it? If you take nothing from tonight's presentation other than having this conversation, because all of us have generational clutter. We have our own, we have things we've inherited, and lots of times we have things from our kids. And we really need to start chipping away at it and having those conversations about what their plan is. When are you coming home for your hockey equipment? And if they don't plan to come home, let them give you permission to dispose of it, because there are people who want it. One day, Cheryl, all this will be yours. And Cheryl says, oh, Ma, no, thank you. We don't collect things. We have a much simpler, more streamlined. You think of the way they build brand new, even luxury homes. They don't have multiple places to eat 10 feet from each other, right? You have one place where you eat, and the amount of big entertaining that we do these days just really doesn't warrant keeping all this stuff. So if it's not from the sentimental, emotional standpoint, maybe it's the practical myths that are holding you back. Maybe you're telling yourself, oh, I might need that someday. Oh my word. I have been into homes where it's bolts of fabric and bags of clothes and things that could possibly be potentially used, but you know what? They never are. So put an expiry date on those. Say, if I haven't used those golf clubs by the end of the summer, I'm going to get rid of them. I'm going to sell them, or I'm going to put them in a consignment shop, or I'm going to give them away to somebody I know who will use them. Or as we get ready for our spring change around in wardrobe, here's a handy little tip. Turn all of your hangers backwards so that instead of hanging this way, they're hanging this way. And whenever you wear something, wash it and put it back, you put it back the way it normally would go. And at the end of the season, you'll see that you wear 20% of your clothing 80% of the time, which begs the question, what are you hanging on to the rest of it for? If you're like most people I know, you have 2 or 3 or 4 sizes in your closet, and you think, wow, if I ever get down to that, I'm gonna. No, if you ever get back down to that, you deserve a whole brand new wardrobe. Never mind the various sizes, or the belts, accessories, handbags, shoes. We all have far more than we actually use. So you should really think of lightening the load and giving it someplace where it will be appreciated. Now, the other idea is that you spent good money on it. I spent $8,000 on that solid cherry Duncan Fife dining room set in 1988, and by golly, I want $8,000 for it. Well, the truth is that if you have gotten good use out of it, it owes you nothing. It doesn't owe you $8,000 because that's what you spent on it. It only has the resale value that the market is willing to pay. This is something that we see all the time, that people have spent money on expensive custom-made formal wear and then don't recognize that it really has very limited resale value as used clothing. So a bit of an attitude adjustment when we're working with homes. It's the same story. It's only worth what the buyers are willing to pay. And if you start thinking of it from the consumer standpoint rather than the seller standpoint, you'll get my meaning here. How much would you pay for a used dining room set? Right? It's very limited. And if they are truly valuable, and there are some things, we're going to get to that in a little bit when we get to the sale items, there are some things that have a tremendous residual value, but you don't want to leave those to your heirs to have to deal with and get pennies on the dollar. You're better to cash it out now using maybe an expert service to help you with appraisal and selling it. And then you get to enjoy the benefit now. So there are some things, but most items people have overvalued in their minds. So the bottom line is are you getting more out of your possessions than it costs you to warehouse them? For every fiction you tell yourself, for every myth that keeps you cluttered, you can reorganize your thinking to allow yourself permission to let it go, not feel guilt, and not feel like you might lack this thing that you need. Because you know what? We all have far more than we need. And if you ever did need it, you are more than capable of repurchasing it. But I almost guarantee you that you won't need it. So the very first thing we do is we decide that enough is enough. And how much is enough for you is different than what's enough for your spouse sometimes, your partner. It doesn't matter what somebody else's standard of enough is. It's what's enough for you. And if you just decide here and now that nothing more is coming into the house before some of it goes out, then you are on the right track. But let's get down to brass tacks now, shall we? This is what I call the 5-step clutter busting strategy for successful home sales. But lest you think this is just for people who are selling their home, I think this is a plan that anyone can use and at any point. It's actually kind of a shame that people tend to declutter and maybe renovate just before they sell the home. I wish so much people would do it 2 or 3 or 4 years before they wanted to sell, so that they could enjoy the fruit of their labor. Anyways, that was an aside. Number 1, we've said this is a battle, that clutter is our enemy and we are going to march into battle. Now, no battle ever happens without a battle plan. And no battle plan ever happens without some preparation. So let's prepare to do battle. And we're going to start strong. And by that, I mean, we are going to circle the date on the calendar and declare D-Day for decluttering. And we're going to let the people know around us that we have this intention to declutter. We're going to try to elicit their support in whatever way possible. And if that means we tell our adult kids that the lease is up on the free rental storage unit in the basement, then we let them know that by the end of February, we need you to come and get your hockey equipment or give us permission to get rid of it, because your dad and I are really committed to this idea of lightening up the load so that it's not a burden to you in the future, should we choose to move, or whatever that script looks like in your house and in your situation. But by circling it on the calendar, telling the people around you, we know that you're much more likely to follow through with the intention. Whether that was working out and training for a 5K walk or decluttering your house, whenever we tell people we have a goal, we have a plan, and we have a start date, it really helps to avoid the procrastination. Maybe ask somebody to join you, a friend to join you, to be your accountability partner and help keep each other on track and motivated. I know that works in a lot of other spheres. And I think if you feel safe having people into your home that you're friends with, then this is a great way to get that going. And now the other thing we're going to do is we're going to gather our supplies. These are your weapons. And for decluttering, it's going to be contractors' garbage bags from Home Depot, because they take a lot, they don't puncture. It might be garbage tags from the city so that you can put out more than the weekly allotment. Clear bins with lids to sort into, some boxes for the things that you'll be donating, marker, tape, those kinds of things, okay? So we have a full list that we'll send you of the things that you need to get ready to do battle, because there's nothing more frustrating than having a good intention and then scurrying around looking for the things. And we never want to be picking things up more than once. And if we have the bin to put them into, or the garbage, or the box for donation, it's so much easier, more, and this is how professional organizers do it. So now we're going to use what we call the Pomodoro method, and that is chunking time. I'm going to tell you, I swear by this, I use it almost every day, and the idea is that for maximum focus and efficiency, we're going to set the timer for 25 minutes. Now, this was named after a professor in Europe who named it after the little kitchen timer that looks like a tomato, where he had his grad students focusing on one task without distraction for 25 minutes. And he found that there was a lot that could be accomplished. But it wasn't so overwhelming that people felt discouraged and didn't want to do it again. So I use this, I set a timer on my phone. You could set a timer on the kitchen stove, and you work on the task for 25 minutes. And when the buzzer goes off, you are free to finish for the day, or take a little break, get a cup of tea, and then go back at it for a second 25-minute session. But the whole thing is, we don't want this to be so unpleasant, like trying to fit in all your workouts in one afternoon, that you never want to do it again. We know that all of this clutter did not just magically enter your home. It didn't just, like one night while you were sleeping, the clutter fairies came, the elves, and they just like dumped a whole bunch of boxes in your basement. This has happened over time. So it makes sense that the process to reverse it is also going to happen over time. And we know that 2 or 3 sessions a week, just 25 minutes, is going to make incredible accumulated benefit over time. Okay? So it's time on task over time. That's the winning formula. And it's been proven in all kinds of productivity books. You don't have to take my word for it. Now, in terms of where to begin, I kind of want to think of like a chessboard where you're going to take one square at a time. You're going to conquer one area before you move on to the next. And it doesn't have to be perfect. 80% is, or better is fine. We always find that last 20% is what we get hung up on, right? You open up the closet and you pull everything out, and then you go, oh my goodness, what am I going to do with this last little bit? Don't worry about it. You can do it another time, or come back to it on a second occasion sometime in the future. But what we do want to caution you against is not starting with papers or family photos. So documents and old bank statements and all of that kind of stuff, no, you will never return. We will never see you again. You will be gone, and we'll just we'll say goodbye. Same thing with photos. It's such a time sucker. If you want to spend a night sorting through old photos, just put them all aside into a box and do it some other time. But this is not the time for doing those kinds of intensive activities. Those are kind of standalone. And the best time of day to do any of this is first thing in the morning, right? Get it done, give yourself a little check mark for good adulting, and then get on with the rest of your day. If you say, oh, I'll do it after lunch. No, 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 no. There's only so much in the tank every day, and we don't want to wait. We want to get it done, and then it's done, and you don't have to think about it. Because one of the things that I think clutter really carries with it for some people is a lot of embarrassment, maybe verging on even shame. So we don't want you to beat yourself up. If you miss a day, no problem. You get back on the next day and you do 25 minutes or whenever it is you were scheduled to do it. Okay? The benefits are going to far outweigh anything that it takes you to get this done. And we just have to keep our eyes on the prize. And if you do find your resources lagging, if your motivation or your inspiration is lagging, that might be a time to call in some reinforcements. Now, I think of the first people closest to us as being our helpers, as potentially in this situation. So family or friends, and to call them in, and it might be just something as simple as taking a load to the recycling depot for you, or lifting a heavy box down, or helping you get some bags of clothes to the car, whatever it is. For after all the years that you have been making deposits into the lives of those people closest to you, now is the time when you can ask for help. And it doesn't have to be like an onerous task. It could be that you have them over for a meal, and, oh, by the way, can you lift a few boxes between now and dessert? I'll pay you in pizza, whatever it is. You can adapt this idea for whatever suits your circumstances, but we all have people, hopefully, that we feel safe in calling upon. And there's no shame in asking for help. But if you don't have any voluntolds that you can call upon, then you might resort to hiring mercenaries. So these are the troops that come in, and maybe that is a young person who's tech savvy and can help you organize sale items on Facebook Marketplace, or maybe it's a professional company. There are so many people who are struggling with this same challenge that there's a whole bunch of companies that have cropped up to help with decluttering. They will sort, they will sell, and they will dispose of for a fee. And we can hook you up with one of those companies if that's the route you decide to go. But generally, I find with decluttering, people either have time or they have money. So if you've got the time to do it, you can do it for practically free. If you have some kind of timeline that you have to meet, like you were listing your house for sale, that's a lot of times when we have to pay for some support in this fashion. So the absolute worst thing is to do nothing. It's better to spend the money and get it done than to pick away at it if you really are not making any progress, especially if you have some other circumstance that's impacting your ability. Maybe it's a physical restriction. So those are times when calling in the paid help is a very good idea. Okay, we are going to get to some questions, so I hope you're thinking of them, okay? I want to make sure that you leave here with your situation dealt with, okay, as much as we can. Oop, went backwards. Oh, I'm not sure why this is going the wrong direction. Oh, my word. Okay, so there we go. Fifth step campaign, divide, and conquer. So you're standing on the precipice. You're at the threshold of your basement and you think, oh my goodness, where am I going to start? Well, first of all, we want an easy win. And that's always going to be garbage. That's where these contractor garbage bags come in handy. Anything that is soiled or broken or missing pieces, these are the things that you can start throwing out. Now, don't get me wrong. We don't want a ton to go to the landfill, of course, but there are some things that are no good to anybody else. And they really are things that need to go. So things like baby gear. I know this really rubs a lot of people the wrong way, but because of the ever-changing safety requirements, a lot of times cribs or high chairs or car seats are not up to safety code and you can't keep them. And you can't donate them, I mean. So even things like unfinished craft and sewing projects, promotional items like all the junk you get at sorry, at golf games and tournaments and all that kind of things. All of these things are no good to anybody, and they really just need to be thrown out. Now, a word of caution: if it's the telephones or electronic gear, this is considered e-waste, and there are depots all throughout York Region and Toronto where you can take those technologies and make sure that they are safely disposed of. The other thing is the paint and solvents and turpentine, maybe leftover gas from the lawnmower. These are all hazardous wastes and they have to be disposed of properly as well. Okay, so have a look through that list and see. Oh, this is funny, the scrap lumber. I'm going to tell you that almost every house I go to, it always seems to be tucked behind the furnace. There is old trim left over from renovation projects or pieces of scrap lumber or shelving. It seems like every single house has this, or like a coffee can filled with various fasteners that nobody knows what they go to, spare parts for things that nobody knows, vacuum bags for vacuums you don't own. Okay, so let's get the garbage out because this is an easy win. And like our little cartoon says there, by the age of 35, we've all got this box of random cables that we would love to get rid of, but we can't because we're pretty sure we're going to need them one day. Pretty sure you're not going to need them one day. Okay. Now, this is my favorite category. If you've got surplus, you could literally bless somebody else's life who doesn't have enough. You've got too much. They don't have enough. So why not donate it? That's a total win-win situation. I love those. Now, these are things that you know still have life in them and somebody else could use them, but you don't find them useful. And I think the general category of donations has to be that these are things that still have life in them and that you would give to somebody you cared about. I'm sure they must be just absolutely appalled at Salvation Army or Value Village or whatever, the things that they get that are just, you know, missing buttons or ripped seams or whatever. If anything, fix them up before you donate them. That's the right thing to do. So clothes is a big one, but there's a lot of other things you could donate that people would use. And we also really love this company called the Furniture Bank. And they will take a ton of housewares, not just furniture, but everything from crock pots to second sets of dishes, and help people who are coming out of the shelter system or who have been referred by social service agencies, new Canadians, refugees, women starting over again, and they will help people set up a whole apartment. And they do restrict what they'll take for the size, but if you have small furnishings, housewares, the Furniture Bank is a wonderful place. Now, they charge you to pick it up, but they'll also give you a tax receipt at the end. And you'll know that you're doing something really good, not putting it into landfill, but giving it to a place where it can be reused and loved all over again. Okay, so have a look. I got a lot of trays for some reason the year that I got married. And I know some of you were married in the year of the fondue pot. Or how many of you have different makers that you've tried? Air fryers are starting to show up in the resale shops, or the, you know, the thrift shops, because everybody goes on these fads where they get these makers of some sort and then don't actually use them. Sporting equipment, another huge category. Let it go. Now, this is going to be all of us after here. If you're headed to Goodwill to donate your collections of things, bags from the car. Now, I love this cartoon because it's actually quite accurate. Clothes I own, clothes I actually wear, clothes I'm willing to give up. Oh, I'm going to be that size again. Well, if you are, kudos to you, but go get yourself new clothes, because whatever it is you're keeping is probably not in style now anyway. So let's thin it out. Let's get rid of the things that aren't of benefit to us and help somebody else in the process. Now, this is the category I was talking about previously, about the value of things. So you think, oh, I paid good money for it. Well, you know, and that's definitely true in some categories. Things like mid-century modern furniture, or vinyl albums, or solid state electronics like hi-fi equipment, or antique jewelry, or cameras. There is a lot of stuff, but this is not my area of expertise. Stamp collections, coin collections, all of these things I'm really not able to help you with, but I can tell you that by seeking out an appraiser to help you with the valuation, you're going to make sure that you get the full value of it. But the brown furniture surplus that we're seeing right now, it really is diminishing the value of it in the open marketplace. So I know that you love your grandma's cedar chest, and it has tremendous sentimental value. And I also know that if you were going to try to replace it, the value of it might be $800 to $1,000. But that's not the market value. You have to get realistic about what people are willing to pay for used furniture, because it doesn't have any heart value to them. And there is a resurgence I'm finding now of people who are picking up dining room pieces or bedroom pieces, and they are restoring them, they're refurbishing them, and then selling them at a profit. So, you know, there is that option too. But right now, what we want is simple and easy. And if somebody is willing to give you a few bucks, then take it out of your house. If that's a win-win as well. Okay, so you'll see that there's a theme here. We don't necessarily want to complicate it. We want to keep it simple. We want to keep it easy and see some benefit from it. Now, this is where you get to keep the best for yourself. Why do we have family dishes and company dishes? Why do we have the good towels? Or how many tablecloths do you need? Just keep the best. Keep the clothes that make you feel attractive and younger and thin and comfortable. Get rid of the other things. You know what they are. And I think that the best part of this is that with smaller homes, we can now afford bigger vacations, right? That's what I dream of doing. And I know most people, when you ask them, if you want a lot of money, what would you do? And the answer typically seems to be to travel. But it's really hard to travel when you have this big house to maintain and worry about. The things that we own can end up owning us, right? The less we have, the better. Less but better, but the less we have, the better. So picture the positive outcome. This is where you get to think of your new, better, lighter, easy breezy life, knowing that you can sleep well at night, having done the work. And that, I think, if COVID has taught us anything, it's that this stuff does not make us happy. Being shut down in these four walls of our homes we don't take any pleasure in our ice cream maker. Okay, well, that one we would. But, you know, the spare clothes in the back of the closet or the 15 pairs of boots, none of that. What we really miss are experiences and relationships and being connected to people. And so I really like that, this quote that we leave you with, that we were never meant to live a life accumulating stuff. We were meant to live simply enjoying the experiences of life, the people of life, and the journey of life, not the things of life. Yes. Amen, Joshua Becker. So stick with me. We're going to get to some questions in a minute. But I want to give you a tool to help you on your 30 days of getting lighter and brighter. We call this the 30-day decluttering challenge. And this is a self-directed program. Don't worry, nobody's going to come and knock on your door and check that you've done it. But it is a way for you to get started. If you really just can't face the basement, the area that needs it the most, where we're telling you to start, if you really can't, then this is a great alternative. It's a way for you to sign up for 30 days of emails, and every day you're going to get a task and a tip with some inspiration. Now, this is a snippet. It's not the entire email. It's just the beginning of it. The first one, which you're going to see, is the front hall closet. So you could sign up with a friend, print this off, put it on your fridge, and just mark off the days that you've done. You can see that number 2 is the kitchen countertops and table. Within 25 minutes, you've got this done. You're done for the day. Or you can keep going if that's what you feel like. Okay, so this is a free email campaign that we've created to help you get started. All you have to do is ask for it, and we're going to make sure that you get started on this. And even better, to invite a friend to journey with you, okay? Be your accountability partner. Now, this is the big offering. If you've ever taken your papers, your documents for shredding, you know that it can be really expensive. And we love to give back to the community that supports our business here in York Region. So we are going to be hosting a fundraising event for Chats, which is a really terrific senior support organization. They do everything from drop-in for Alzheimer's people all the way to Meals on Wheels, volunteer programs all over the place. So we love Chats. We love what they do for the seniors in our area. And we're going to do a fundraiser again. I think this will be our 4th time, something like that, where we will be shredding documents for free by appointment at a location yet to be determined. We have to wait until we get a little closer, but you've got plenty of advance notice. It is May the 14th. We set you up with an appointment to minimize contact, and we're going to get you going on that. So if this is something that you have interest in, please reach out to us and we'll get you those appointments starting soon. Okay? So that's that. And then we have upcoming workshops where you can continue on with your house preparation through the best renovations for return on investment. And this is really a practical viewpoint of what things can I be doing 12 to 24 months ahead of listing the home for sale that will increase the resale value. Is it granite countertops? Is it hardwood floors? What is it? I've already told you that decluttering is the number 1 thing you can do, but let's presume you've gotten through that. What's next on the list? And I'm going to share my opinions and give you some very practical suggestions. You're going to see before and after, and even worksheets and a workbook. Okay, so that's coming up in February. We're almost ready for questions. And this is how you find us. We're all over the social media web-sphere. We've got a website, we've got Facebook, we've got Instagram, we've got LinkedIn. So any way that you want to reach out and ask us about our upcoming events or ask us about our services, we would love to speak with you. I love nothing more than talking shop. Okay, so now it's question time. Okay, so this is a great time to get your questions answered. I'm going to look into the chat box here And we had some that were emailed in, and a lot of them dealing with family. What do you do when there are family members that don't want to deal with their clutter, don't want to get rid of the things because of various reasons, whatever? How do you deal with the other people in your life? Well, first of all, is it directly affecting you? Is it like your spouse, your partner, or is it like your parents? Because those are two kind of different situations. I think the messaging can be the same. I think we always want to come from a place of compassion and understanding that we all have different tolerances for clutter. Like my tolerance is for clutter is way higher than my mom's, and my kids are definitely way higher than mine. So what feels right and comfortable for me may not be what feels right and comfortable for my partner, and that can cause some friction. I understand. But to say, hey, this clutter makes me feel anxious, would you be willing to work on it with me over time so that I can enjoy our house more fully, our space together more fully? I think that kind of enlisting their help rather than demanding it or cajoling or, pouting, whatever we do, I think that's kind of a respectful tone, and hopefully they'll respond to that. Now, if it's your parents, I would entreat them to think of what they had to do if they had to deal with their parents' estate or being overhoused. If you've ever had to go through this with an elderly relative or an estate sale afterwards, it's horrible. And just to entreat upon them that you not be faced with the same burden. What can we be doing ahead of time so that when you're ready to go to the retirement community or into the condo, that it won't be such a huge upset? Are there things that we can be doing now, sorting through, organizing, allocating, having the conversation? Yes, you put this aside for your grandchild. Well, do they know? Do they want it? When are they coming? So those are the kinds of conversations, okay? Now, there was a question in here about hoarding. Hoarding is a different issue. I cannot speak to hoarding. It's beyond my ability. I just know that my very first real estate transaction was with a bona fide hoarder, and it was a lot. And I think that's where we start to get into the realm of getting some help, outside help in, because it becomes such an emotionally fraught conversation. It's really difficult for anybody, for everybody. I just think that's something you kind of have to farm out to an expert. Certainly not me. And then it was talking about what to do with big furniture. Well, I think we may have dealt with that. Some of the larger pieces are going to be quite difficult to dispose of. They regrettably might end up in landfill, which we really don't want. I notice in my neighborhood, you put things by the curb and people magically pick them up. I'm not sure how. So the big furniture is always going to be an issue, but smaller pieces, there's tons of places that want them, and you can donate them for sure. So another question was, what can I do to clean up my house in a month? Well, the 30-day decluttering challenge is definitely a good place to start. But like we said, there's time or there's money. If you don't have time to do this yourself, you've only got 30 days, well, then you might have to resort to asking for extra help. My question to you would be, why is the 30 days important? What is it about that time frame that makes this the deadline? Is it because you're listing your home, or you've already sold it and now you've got to move, whatever? It might be time to call in some reinforcements. And then people were talking about the clothes to keep, throw out, and sell. Well, I think you can look at it this way. Whatever doesn't make you feel beautiful, that's what is a candidate for being discarded. Whatever you just don't love, because we end up just gravitating towards the things that we feel that fit us and make us look good anyway. So the rest of it we don't get to wearing. And in terms of resale, again, there are some consignment shops for brand name items, but one person I know has had good success in organizing them into clothing into lots, like a lot of 5 or 6 ladies' skirts or 2 or 3 men's suits or whatever it is, like organizing them in a bundle and giving a price for the whole bundle rather than piece by piece by piece. So that's something that can happen. And if you're worried about the transaction, most people now e-transfer, and then they do what's called porch pickup. So you literally leave it on the porch for them to pick up after they've already paid for it. Okay? So there's some suggestions. And if you think of things afterwards, I don't want this to eat away at you. I want you to reach out to me and by text or phone call or email and make sure that you get what it is that you need. So if that's the 30-day decluttering challenge, please reach out and we'll make sure that you are signed up. And if there's any other questions, now's the time because we are almost done our hour together. It's whizzed by. I think there's been a lot of information coming to you. I hope you've enjoyed it and found it to be a practical assistance, a bit of inspiration. And now we get to do our giveaway. So this is where we're going to draw for a coffee gift card, and we'll send that to you in the mail. And I hope you win, okay? Okay. Whoa! Okay, there we go. And it is Tatiana! Whoa! Tatiana! Nice job, Tatiana. Oh, I think.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I hope you enjoy it. I'm a email Melissa Mendez with your address for your giveaway gift. Okay, Tatiana? And the rest of you, please reach out with your questions. Check us out on our website at www.smartrealtysolution.com, and that's where you can find out more about our shredding event and other things that we do throughout the community. Okie dokie? Okay, well, I really appreciate you being here. I hope this was helpful. It's so much more enjoyable to do these things in person, but hopefully you've gotten enough to get you started on the road to a lighter, brighter, decluttered you. Okay, thank you so much. I hope you have a great rest of your night, and I'll look forward to seeing you at our next webinar. Bye for now.